Hi, welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I'm joined today by Sue Spencer. Sue, welcome.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad that you are here. Sue, one of the reasons I wanted to have you on today was you have actually a really motivational and inspirational story, and it has to do with a lot with getting into the fitness lifestyle yourself. So, if you don't mind, can you just introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are and what you do for a living?
My name is Sue Spencer, and I'm a 65-year-old, almost 66-year-old next week, Olympic weightlifter, and I compete internationally. I have one world record and some Pan American Masters weightlifting records, and I didn't start doing any kind of physical activity until I was 58 and a half, and I realized I needed to do something about changing my lifestyle, changing the way that the amount of activity that I had, what I was eating, just being healthier all around. And so I started in the gym. I just made a decision I was going to go to the gym 5 days a week on my way to work. I set it up at a gym that was in between my work and my home, so I didn't have an excuse. And I did it in the morning knowing that I wouldn't find an excuse not to go later in the day. And I think that that for me was a really big thing that a lot of people find it hard to get into that routine. And by making it sort of really setting myself up for success, I guess is really what I was doing.
Right.
And then I kind of just went from there. I decided I was going to be open to whatever opportunities came up and what the possibilities were from there. And I was just going to see what happened. And I really had no plan or idea at all what I was going to do. I just somehow thought miraculously my goal was like to lose around 100 pounds. That's what I needed to do. And I
Okay.
no idea how I was going to do it. But luckily for me, I connected with a personal trainer and started to work with him. And after a short time, I not only got into the routine of going to the gym on a regular basis, but the way that he trained was strength training, functional fitness. I wasn't doing a lot of cardio. I was mainly doing the strength training, and I discovered
Okay.
that I was pretty strong. And I also really changed the way I ate. And I can remember after about 3 or 4 months, him saying to me, or not even that long, maybe about 2 months, saying, like, if you keep going and doing this, you'll be surprised in 6 months, you'll have lost 30 pounds or something. And I don't think either of us really thought that was going to occur, but
Right.
it would be
But it
nice
did.
to.
Okay.
But it absolutely did. And I
Okay.
just, the strength training was what just really, really sort of worked with my body type. And after, I guess, probably about a year of working out, I had lost a considerable amount of weight. And, as I was saying to you before, that somewhere between 75 and 100 pounds. I have no
Wow.
idea, because at some point your body transforms in such a way that you're losing body fat, but you're not necessarily losing weight
That's right.
because you're gaining muscle.
Yeah.
So there's some point that, and it's always surprising that what you think you weighed when you were like 25 and went on a diet and lost weight and you weighed a certain weight. Well, you probably, if you're working out, are not going to be anywhere near that weight when you're
Exactly.
actually fit and strong and healthy and probably the same size or smaller than you were then.
Exactly.
But just because things weigh differently when you're working out. So I did that, and then he said, like, now you need to get a new idea of what you're going to do,
A
because
new
you need to
goal.
have a goal to
Okay.
push you forward. So I decided that, because I'd sort of been doing some like deadlifts and not a lot of bench press, but squats,
Okay.
obviously. And
Sure.
I could do a pretty heavy deadlift at that time, probably around 200 pounds. And
Wow.
And then I could also do, like getting like 180-pound squat easily, back squat. And so I looked to see, because I have to think big, what World Masters Games had as far as weightlifting. Well, they didn't have powerlifting. They had Olympic lifting.
Okay.
And so I very naively went in and said to him, I want to learn how to do Olympic lifting, and I want to go to the 2017 World Masters Games in New Zealand. So he said, sure. He didn't laugh. He said, yeah, let's go for it. And so that's how I kind of got on the journey of Olympic lifting. And I trained for probably a year and a half, partly because when I was sort of halfway into it, I had not been paying attention, and I sort of jammed my leg when I was doing the jerk movement where
a
you
clean and jerk?
do a split.
Okay.
And I really jammed my leg. So it took me a little bit of time to get that back into proper, flexibility and everything. But I worked with a personal massage therapist who was amazing, and I was pretty dedicated to getting into that space. So I just worked really hard at it, and really within probably 6 weeks from when I did it, where I couldn't put any weight stepping down onto my leg.
Right.
I was actually back doing I could do like 185-pound back squat at that point. So I had that flexibility.
Right. That's a
so
quick
it
recovery.
took me until I was 62 before I competed for the first time in the provincial masters weightlifting.
Where was that?
Pardon?
And where was that? Was that in New Zealand?
That was in locally. It's usually always in Vancouver, the provincial masters.
Right.
So I did that, and then the next year I did it again, and that was also the year that I had decided all that time ago that I was going to do the 2017 World Masters Games. And I did go. I right up until I had no idea how I was going to get there, but I just knew I was going. And I had that like positivity right from the start. And I think that changes your mental outlook on a lot of things.
Sure.
And right up until it was in April. And in January, I finally decided, well, I was going to book my Airbnb, but I didn't have my airfare. And I just knew I was going to get it somehow. And then all of a sudden I had a company that offered to pay my airfare, which was the Energy Club, which is a local Vancouver club. They're awesome.
Yeah. And they're a local supplement chain here in Vancouver, British Columbia, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And they paid my airfare to get to New Zealand and back, which was amazing.
Very cool.
And so really grateful for that. And so I went to New Zealand and competed, and there's not a lot of women in my age class, so realistically, you're quite often going to come back with a gold medal. But and that was exciting to have that.
Sure.
And you'd walk around in Auckland, and people would ask you what you'd done and how you did, and then everybody wanted a picture with you with your medal. It was
you're like a celebrity.
Like a celebrity.
Yeah.
But realistically, what I did then and what I do now is I'm always going for bettering whatever I've done before.
Okay.
Like when and also keeping in mind that you just have to, things happen in your life. You just have to go with the best that you can do for yourself on that day.
Right.
And so usually I try and increase a little bit of the weight that I do in a snatch or a clean and jerk. And sometimes I'm able to do it really well. And sometimes you have a day that you're not feeling so strong. Sometimes you just want to get through the competition the best you can.
Sure.
So I've gone to the World Masters a couple of times.
Yeah.
The last one was in Montreal.
Okay.
In the summertime, last August, and I did a 34 kilo snatch.
Wow.
And I did a 38 one, but like they're very strict about, your elbows being, locked out and everything. And I
Sure.
must have done a bit of a press because I did do the 38.
You
So
did.
I know I can do it.
Okay.
That's next time.
Right.
And then I did a 47 kilo clean and jerk, which is
Oh, wow.
about 105 pounds or something.
Yeah, actually. Yeah. Okay.
Since then, I've in practice I've managed to do about 50 kilos.
Right.
So
Well, I just want to backtrack for a second. When you first got into working out, when you were going to the gym, did you immediately hook up with a trainer, or did you do some stuff on your own first?
actually, it was kind of crazy. I made this mental thing that I was going to, take advantage of any opportunities that came. And I think we all should do that in life, that, it's so easy to say no,
Sure.
or, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So when I had a tour of the gym, the manager was showing me around, and I said, oh, I don't use certain, of the machines because I have like crunchy knees. And he's like, oh, I got a guy that can help you with that. So
Right.
I'm like, okay.
Sure.
And so he had somebody that did fascial release and gait analysis and helped you sort of change how you carried your body. So he said, well, I can help you, and I think I can fix it in 6 sessions. So
Okay.
I bought a package at the gym that I went to that was like 10 sessions.
Right.
So I did 6 sessions with this fellow, and sure enough, I followed what he was telling me, and it made all the difference. My way I walked was different. My posture started to change, and I got rid of those little crunchy sounds in my knees, which was
Nothing was
pretty
cracking.
cool.
Right.
And so I had those 4 sessions left. And so I said, well, I'm not coming here at another time. The gym is actually in an area where it's really hard to get parking. So the morning was perfect
Right.
for that as well. And he said, well, I'll hook you up with somebody that is a trainer at that time.
Sure.
And so that's how I actually ended up training with Paul.
Okay.
And it was perfect. I worked out at 6 o'clock every morning, and sort of got going that way. One of the things that I really found with it is that, like I thought, okay, well, I've got 4 sessions. And I had no intention whatsoever of working with a personal trainer, as many people that start in the gym feel that way.
Sure.
But, as soon as I'd started working with them, it's like, it's so easy. They tell you what to do.
Yeah.
If you're not doing it correctly, they correct you.
Yeah.
If you're still not doing it correctly, they correct you
Correct
again.
you again. Right.
And I just thought, like, I've got to figure out how I can make this work.
Sure.
So I did. And I had to adjust, some of my spending habits.
Okay.
But to me, it was really seriously worth it. And I saw a big change almost immediately.
Right.
So that was really what spurred me on. And that starting point of deciding I was going to go to the gym sort of morphed into like a full-on dedication. And I'm like way, way, way more competitive than I ever dreamt I was.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing, that people are always like, well, you can go out for dinner,
Yeah.
2 or 3 times a week, but
Exactly.
you can't spend your money on yourself. And so I think that was a big morph for me, is that,
Sure.
yeah, I need to spend that money on myself.
Yeah, you budgeted for it. And I know your old trainer, Paul, quite well. He's a good friend of mine, and I can tell you right now, I think you got very lucky because you were set up with a really good trainer. That doesn't always happen to everybody. Now, you and Paul worked together for quite a long time.
Yeah, 7 years.
Wow.
And I probably would still be working with him, except that he has decided to retire from personal training, and he's going in building another part of his company. So yeah, he was amazing. And it's the trust and the thought that the person that you're working with is compatible with you, and you connect with them. But honestly, right from the start, I just trusted that he was not going to let me hurt myself.
Right.
And I did say to him at one point, you know, if you had made me do this stress test or whatever when I first came in, and all these jumping jacks and stuff like that and burpees, I said, I would have been out the door. I wouldn't have been working with a personal trainer.
Yeah.
He fit what he was doing, and he does strength training. That's how he
That's what
trains
he
his
does. Yeah.
clients.
Yeah, that's right.
So
Specialty.
that really worked for me. And yeah, it's, you know, I think a lot of times people are not really happy with their trainer, but they keep with them because they think they have to.
Yes.
And it's like going to a doctor, going to a massage therapist, anything like that, that you find the person that works for you, that gives you the results that you want, but also that you have a connection with, that you feel they're listening to you, and that they're also able to explain what you need to do easily.
Well, I think with Paul too, I know he always takes a very when he was a trainer, he always took a very customized approach to each client that he worked with. He didn't give everyone a generic program and off you go. And I think that's very important as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I'm the only person that he trained that does Olympic lifting. And you know, we would be in the gym, and when I trained with him 3 days a week, that's all that we would be working on is, you know, as soon as I started competing, for sure.
Right.
And, you know, I'm really grateful for that, because when, after I'd competed a couple of times, I kind of got to the point where, you know, then I was going to maybe do a bit of traveling with it, and he wasn't going to be coming with me.
Right.
So we set up a process where I learned to sort of mentally get myself prepared. Like a lot of times when you compete, it's not getting up on the stage and doing whatever you're going to do. It's the prep work that happens.
That's right.
Right before you go on, and being psyched out by the other people that are competing against you or with you, even, you know, just the dynamic of all those people there at a competition. And so we really worked on the mental side of it as well.
Right.
And that made a really big difference. And I've gone like all different places on my own, knowing that I, you know, like usually there's somebody there that will say, you know, do you want some help loading your bar or whatever.
Right.
But I've gone knowing that if there's no one there that I'm going to connect with that's going to help me, that I can do it myself.
You can prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was actually going to ask you that next now, because Paul is retired. And so are you now trained on your own, or have you enlisted the services of another trainer?
At the moment I am. But I actually,
We'll get to that in a second. But I mean, before COVID-19, I mean, what were you doing?
So I actually sort of took a little bit of time off. My mom was quite ill and passed away in January. So I was sort of off it from that. But I connected with, I live in Ladner, which is, you know, outside of Vancouver. And so I connected with some, the Semi-Amu Athletic, Joe Scally. That owns that it's like a CrossFit gym, but they have Olympic lifting classes, and they're just so amazing, so welcoming, and it was just like a perfect fit for me. So as soon as they're back, they do a lot of online stuff right now, as most places do, but once they're, you know, this is the isolation is over, I definitely will be back there. And it's been a really, really good compliment for me. They have open gym times that I can go and work on whatever it is that I need to work on as well.
Well, and I know, because you told me off camera that before COVID-19 started, you actually got yourself your own little gym in your house, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
I've had a bar and some weights, like some bumper plates, and a bench for a couple of years. But when the trip to the Canadian Masters was canceled, I just thought, well, I'm not spending money doing that. So I went out, and it was just like about 2 or 3 days before there was like everything shut down.
Right.
And I bought myself a rack, and I had a 45-pound bar. So I bought a 35-pound bar, and I bought more weight. So I can, if I'm doing deadlifts or anything like that, I'm not going to be lifting. I can do, like, I think I've got enough weight for about 135 pounds. But that's enough for me to beyond what I normally would do as far as a clean and jerk or definitely a snatch. So I've got sort of anything that I could, if I can get up to doing 135 pounds on my own, then that's going to be like amazing. I can do about 125 pound or 120 pound clean, but not the jerk part jerk part
But
of
still,
it. So
it's so impressive, and I think it's really smart that you do this ahead of time because I mean, as you know, dumbbells right now are more valuable than gold. I have
yeah,
people asking me all the time, "Hey, can I come to your gym? Can I work out?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, we're closed." Like, can I buy
yeah,
your dumbbells off you? I'm like, "No, you can't." So,
yeah,
because I
yeah.
think a lot of these fitness stores and even Amazon, they're sold out of dumbbells and benches right now. So
Yeah.
you've got
Well,
your own.
there's a couple in Vancouver, and Fitness Town has pretty good stock. So,
Right, right.
well, they did at the time. So I got like with dumbbells, I got 15, 25, and 35. So I do a lot of like progressions and stuff like that,
Right.
just like
So
interval volumes.
are you finding it challenging though to work out at home right now? Like is it the accountability still there?
Yeah, I'm going to be retiring in mid-May, and like you have to look for the the value or the things to be grateful for
Sure.
in things that are seemingly really disruptive.
Right.
And because I still work full time, I've been working from home, so I've had to get myself into a routine of working from home every day, but it's sort of prepping me for um what I used to do of get up every morning, go to the gym on my way to work. And so I've tried to sort of keep that same process going.
Okay.
So I kind of feel like I'm getting myself ready for when I actually am not going to be going to work
Right.
anymore and
Yeah.
stopping at the gym on the way to work. Then
Right.
what am I going to be doing? Well,
Okay.
there is a local gym here that I do use when it's open, but
Yeah.
it's getting me in the routine of doing that. So I try and keep the same routine. I've been finding it a little bit difficult to just get motivated because there's not people around,
Sure.
but definitely having the equipment in front of you.
Yeah.
I got to walk by it every
Every day.
every
Couple
day.
times a day.
I'm looking at it through my bookcase right now, and I'm
Yeah.
thinking, yeah, like it's calling my name no matter
Calling your
what.
name. Well, so you say you're retiring in the middle of May, but that's from one job. You actually have another business that you've started. How
Yes.
long ago did you start your other business, lifting
So
coaching?
my other business is Lift You Up Coaching, and it's really sort of like almost like a life coach.
Okay.
I'm also taking a course right now for personal training with specifically with women and women that are a little bit older, of just all the different hormonal changes and everything that people go through, so that I'm not positive that I'm going to actually be in the gym with someone, although I never say no to, you never say never, right? Because
Sure.
crazier things have happened in my life.
You're an Olympic lifter now.
But yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've just sort of slowly got it going. I have a website, and I have a few clients, but I've sort of been just tweaking what I'm doing, and I'm sort of ramping up to be able to really do that full time when
Okay.
I finish work,
Right.
the other work, and then also competing with Olympic lifting. That it's going to allow me to travel wherever in the world that I want to do that. There's like a really huge amount of interesting competitions in Europe that throughout the years. So just whatever sort of comes up, I have that opportunity.
Right.
And with my company, I did kind of like a little soft launch right at the beginning of March. I was over in Victoria at the Women's Wellness Expo, and I had a booth there. So I talked to people about my company, but
Okay.
I also spoke on their stage,
Oh,
and that's something that I'm really interested in doing, is going to groups of women's groups. And I do have some clients that are men, one or two, but mainly it's women that I work with,
okay.
and just talking about how you can make some changes in your life, and just because you're 40 or 45 or 55 or even 65 or older, it's not the end of the world. You know,
Right.
you may have spent all your time, you know, as a career, having your career or looking after your family or your family and working, or, but, you know, everybody else sort of took first dibs on what you did. And now
Right.
you're at a stage where everybody's grown up or you've decided to retire, and then what the heck are you going to do now?
Right.
So I was kind of at that stage, not for retiring, but you know, my kids are grown up.
Right.
My daughter is 38, my son's 35,
Yeah.
almost 36. So you sort of think, well, you know, it's not like they need me
No.
anymore. Like, but then I've never done, you know, like it's like, it's not like pampering yourself, like having a manicure or
No, no,
pedicure or
no. It's
something, or
making
having
time
a
for
spa
yourself,
day.
though.
It's like
Yeah.
really looking after your whole
Yeah.
self and your
Sure.
food and your physical health and your
Yeah.
mental health. And um, that's one of the things that really surprised me, is how much your mental health is really tied to your physical health.
Sure. Yeah.
And
100%.
you know, certainly I didn't um, have depression and anxiety to the extent that some people do, that it's just debilitating, where I'm out of it, like, for, you know, not able to cope for days.
Right.
But certainly noticed dramatically once I started working out, and then absolutely once I started doing lifting,
Yeah.
that such a difference in my mental attitude to pretty much everything in life, which was
Sure.
pretty cool.
And the type of clients that reach out to work with you, are they looking more into the fitness components or career change, or is it a combination of just everything?
Well, you know, it's kind of a combination. And so part of the reason why I'm doing this personal training course too is that um, you can make changes in your life that are just like um, one column, say. But, you know, there's multiple pillars that make you have a whole, well, healthy life. And so you know, if you're just changing one thing, then it's not going to actually end up really working out for changing how you are. And you know, like, I come across people who are in their early 40s and they think they're, you know, like their life is over, and I'm like, well, you're probably halfway there, maybe.
Right. With that
You know,
thinking, for
my
sure.
mom was 96 when she
Yeah.
passed away, so I'm
Right.
and still really active. So, you know, people live a lot longer nowadays.
Right.
And so you kind of have to put everything together. And so that's what I'm hoping to do, is like help people make some healthy changes
Yeah.
in finding a different way of moving. And yeah, I absolutely love Olympic weightlifting. If you'd asked me that 8 years ago, I would have thought you were absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But and also for me, I've never done sports in my
Right.
life.
Right.
You know, probably when I was in school, but that was
Okay.
about
Yeah.
it. And you know, here I am at almost 66, and I'm an athlete.
Right.
I don't look like one to a lot of people, but I can assure you I absolutely am. And
I've seen the videos. I know. Um, I wanted to ask you, switch gears over to diet for a second. You and I actually worked together a few years ago on a
Mhm.
nutritional plan, and you are one of the few people I've met who actually is a true celiac. Can you give some insight to what it's like living with celiac disease, and the challenges you face as far as diet and nutrition?
Yeah, you know, as far as being celiac is concerned, people have sort of a, you know, the way you would think about it before is that somebody is celiac is that, oh, they have problems with their gut health, which yes, they do, but it doesn't mean that you're like some skinny person that, you know, like that would tell you that somebody was celiac. For me, it happens to appear on my skin when I react. It's
Okay.
reacting internally, but it's actually showing up that way.
Right.
um, but everybody is slightly different. And, you know, gut health, regardless of whether you're celiac or not, is so hugely important in your
Sure.
overall health. But when I first, I guess I've been diagnosed as being celiac since 2011.
Okay.
So before that, I just thought that I was really sensitive to wheat, and if as long as I was really sort of careful and had really minimal amount of it,
Yeah.
that it would, it would be okay. And then
Right.
you sort of overdo it, and then, oh, you're feeling awful.
Right.
But what happened was that once I realized and found out that I was celiac
Yeah.
and changed my diet,
Yeah.
even though I didn't change it the best way I could have and wasn't super healthy with it like 9 years ago,
Right.
it allowed me to change my gut health. And then of course change, that is probably part of the reason why when I started working out properly and being really active, that I was able to drop that weight and lose the body fat,
Sure.
because I was eating a little bit healthier. And
Right.
then, when I worked with you, I was thinking about that this morning. I still follow somewhat that plan,
Okay.
because the combinations of macros and everything
Right.
really, really worked for my body.
Sure.
And I know you had to tailor it completely to all the things that I refused to eat, whether they were for celiacs
It
or
was
not.
fun.
But yeah, that's one of the things. Like, if you can stick with whole food as a celiac,
Okay.
then you're way ahead of the game, because it's all where you find the hidden stuff is
Right.
all in condiments.
Okay.
So if you're, I don't eat a lot of grains anymore. And that's the other thing. You have to sort of adjust to your body, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And the more active you are and that kind of thing, it makes a difference as
That's
well.
right. Yeah.
But what I really found was that now, I might have been having some rice or quinoa or oatmeal that was organic, that was gluten-free.
Right.
Now, probably the only grain that I would have would be oatmeal.
Oh, is that
And
right? Okay.
yeah, and the crazy thing is that,
Yeah.
when I have those other things, it's
Right.
fine.
Right.
But man, you take them out of your diet
Yeah.
and your energy just
You
skyrockets.
feel so much better.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I think that's the thing. Like, for me, that's the more natural whole food
Right.
that I can eat,
Yeah.
the better off I am.
Well, you're really in tune with your body, right? And
Yeah.
that's something you and I were talking about earlier too, off camera, was you were saying, the best diet for somebody is a diet that works for them, right? Not some
Yeah.
diet that works for your friend down the street or your family member or your mom or your dad. It's the diet that works for you.
Yeah. And I went from, following sort of a certain path to really adjusting and changing. And what I eat now and what when I'm eating properly,
Right.
what I eat now and what I ate even like 2 years ago is quite different. And I always just advocate for, you have to experiment. And really what you want is you want your body to feel as good inside as it does outside. So
Sure.
if you're really exercising and everything, but you're eating, Doritos and Twinkies and stuff like that all the
Yeah.
time, you may be able to still keep within your calorie levels, but you're not treating your internal self the way you should be. And it makes a difference to your mental health. And
I
I
agree.
know at one point one of my friends was saying, oh my gosh, I just feel like so depressed right now, and it's like I felt great like an hour or two ago. And I'm like, well, I wonder what you ate,
But you ate. Yeah.
and they said, oh no, it's what I eat all the time. And I thought, well, yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
true
now I
though.
notice that they advocate for that. They're like, what you eat affects you mentally and physically, and you
Sure.
have to be aware of that.
Yeah.
And but you have to find your own thing. Like, what works for you and what works for me could be different. Like, a good example is my daughter is vegan,
Okay.
and she feels so good and is so healthy
Right.
on a vegan diet
Yeah.
that that's what she does. Me, like,
No way. You wouldn't do
She
it.
said to me one time, "Oh, Mom, you got to try doing smoothies." And I'm like, it's just way too much fruit sugar for me.
Sure. Yeah.
So carbs are what affect my body.
Right.
And I lean more to almost like a carnivore or low carb, high fat, high protein,
Yeah.
that kind of diet, because
Right.
that's what works for me and that's what my body reacts to.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really key thing is, and being celiac, man, it takes away a lot of the, I mean, you can find stuff that's celiac that's or gluten-free that's like cookies and cakes
Sure.
and mixes
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I kind of avoid that.
Yeah.
And it's so great because at my work, there's always cookies and stuff like that around. And I'm just like,
You're not
doesn't
interested.
even phase me. And I have a pretty sweet tooth.
Sure.
And I just like, it doesn't phase me at all because I don't have to, I know that I'm not going to, even try it.
Yeah. No, that's a really important message. And, that's why I always tell people, that's why I'm not a big fan of the if it fits your macros diets or things like that. Because like you said, you could go around eating Doritos and chips and popcorn and all these things and look great, but what is going on inside your body? If you're driving a premium car, you're not going to fill it with cheap gas. So treat your body the same, right? Sue, if someone wanted to get in contact with you for life coaching, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Probably on my website at liftyoupcoaching.com. My email is sue@liftyoupcoaching.com, and I am on Instagram, both as Lift You Up Coaching and as Beast Mode Grandma, which is my
I
other
love it.
was my original Instagram, and
Right.
I sort of switched over to my coaching one. But
Yeah.
I
There's
love the name, so I'm
not
keeping it.
many Olympic lifters who are grandmothers, right? I wouldn't think.
Well,
Are there?
there aren't,
No.
but
Okay.
also
Yeah.
there's like a crazy amount of particularly women now, but there's a crazy amount of people over 55 that Olympic lift. There were
That's great.
13 women in my age category, which
Yeah.
is 65 to 69, and there were probably about the same number in the 70 plus for women.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
in
That's
Montreal.
impressive. I'm going to put a link in the description below to this video to all your business contact information, so potential
Okay.
clients can reach out to you. And I mean, you do offer also online consultations? Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. I do face to face. I also do, sort of a combo, and then I do like online as
Great.
well.
Perfect.
I have a client that lives in the UK, and I have one that lives in Calgary that I work with. So that's the great thing about the internet. You
Sure.
can people can be anywhere in the world. You just have to
Right here. Yeah.
you just
Perfect.
have to make the hours work
That's
properly.
right. And right now we all have a lot of hours, so you can make it work.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on and telling your story today. It's really, really, really impresses me to have someone like you on, and just to hear your story, your background behind fitness. And I get a lot of people who tell me all the time. A lot of my clients say, "No, I'm too old to do that. I'm too old to do that." You're Olympic lifting, and at what age?
66 next Tuesday.
There you go. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Sue, I want to thank you so much again, and I'll
Well,
look
you're welcome.
forward.
It was nice to connect with you again.
Yeah, it's always nice to talk with you. And I'm looking forward to when COVID-19 is over and hearing about your next lifts. You'll have to
Yes.
come on again, though, right before your actual next competition and explain the mindset you're in. So I don't think a lot
Yeah,
of
I'll
people
let you
get
know.
that.
Yeah.
The competitor's mindset.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a little different.
it is, yeah. Sue, thank you so much. You have a great weekend.
Yep, you too.
Talk to you again
Thanks.
soon. Okay, bye,
Bye.
Sue.